Welcome back, she says somberly.
I didn't know you were gone.
Well, welcome back to my channel. So I just recorded like 6 minutes of a video and realized that when I hit the record button, apparently my aim was off and it didn't actually start recording. So we're starting this video over. For me, this is not over. This is nothing new for you guys, but for me, this is the second time around, and I'm kind of bummed because there was like humor from my husband in there. So anyway, this video is the top audiobooks that I listened to in 2018, and this is inspired by Haley in Bookland. She kind of posted a list of videos she was going to be doing for the end of the year, and I was like, oh, I wouldn't have thought to do that one. So Haley, thank you for the inspiration. I'm going to link her channel down below. Go check her out. She's really great. I know I've talked about her a bunch of times, but she's a really great like booktuber. So the thing with this is it's not going to necessarily be like these were my favorite books. It was these are going to be the best audiobook performances that I listened to in 2018. So I'm going to do a countdown just like I did for the other one. So starting in thank you, drum roll. Starting at number 5 is Pachinko. So Pachinko was not necessarily like an amazing audiobook. I mean, it's definitely a solid audiobook, and if you're wanting to do audiobook, like I definitely recommend it. The thing that made the audiobook amazing was there are a lot of Korean and Japanese words mixed in, and since I was doing this on audiobook, I wasn't even thinking about them. But then after I finished the book, I was reading some reviews on Goodreads, and people were saying that since they don't speak Korean or Japanese and they don't know how to pronounce these words, they found that it really inhibited their reading because every time they come to one of these, it would trip them up. And so, I mean, if you speak Korean, obviously this isn't going to be an issue for you, or Japanese. Most of the terms are Korean, but there's both. But because I had someone reading it that had either been coached on how to pronounce them or actually speaks these languages, like there was no, those words were a addition to the book instead of a hindrance in me reading it. So I definitely think that if you want to do Pachinko and you don't speak Korean or Japanese, mostly Korean, I recommend the audiobook because then you're going to get something that emphasizes the culture instead of just making it harder to read. So Pachinko, number 5. Number 4. What?
Saw that coming.
Yeah, he saw it coming because he's already listened to this. This is the second time. So number 4 is Where Do You Go, Bernadette? And at first, I was like, I don't like this audiobook. And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, there's something weird about it. And I realized it's because there's like a 40-year-old woman narrating it. I don't know how old she actually is, but she sounds like she's probably around 40. And a lot of the book is narrated by Bernadette's 11-year-old daughter, B. And so it's weird to have this like 40-year-old woman narrating on behalf of an 11-year-old girl. But once I kind of reconciled like that's what was making it weird for me, it wasn't so bad. And the narrator actually does a really good job. There's a lot of parts of the book that are like emails being read off or letters and that sort of a thing that she does a really great job of kind of bringing life into something that wouldn't necessarily have life if you're just like reading an email, you know? So I thought that the audiobook, once I figured out why, like what was kind of bothering me about it, was actually really great. I thought she did a great job of kind of bringing personality into parts that might be drier if you were just reading it. Okay, number 3 is The Final Empire, which is the Brandon Sanderson Mistborn book. That it was such a good audiobook. Like, I appreciated doing it on audiobook just because it's such a long book and I'm lazy and I didn't have to read it if I did it on audiobook. But I also actually really enjoyed the audiobook. The narrator does a good job of like there's the main character is male and then the like almost basically main character is female. And a lot of times when you have a male narrator trying to do female voices, it's just a train wreck. And he does a really good job. So I really recommend the audiobook for that one. Number 2 is kind of going to be a little bit of a surprise because I didn't actually do this one on audiobook, but Kingdom of Ash. And the reason I say this is the book is 980 pages. And I get that for some people, that's a really, I mean, even for me, that was a really, really long read. And I got it from the library. And when you're getting something from the library, when it's on order, you can't get the audiobook right away. You have to wait like months until they have licensing for the audiobooks. And I was not willing to wait that long. So I was like, I'm just going to have to power through and read this bad boy. However, I checked, it is the same narrator that has done all the other books in the series. And about half of the books in the series I did on audiobook and the other half I read. And the other ones that I did on audiobook were great. So I didn't have to actually do this one on audiobook to tell you that this one is worth doing on audiobook. Especially if you're like, I'm never going to read something that's almost 1,000 pages. Do the audiobook. They're great. And also, I did the first part of the series on audiobook, and a coworker was telling me that she read them, and there's a lot of, she found the first books, I think it was the novellas that she found obnoxious because like half the sentences ended in exclamation points, and there was just, it was like very emphatic, which doesn't necessarily come through in the audiobook, which is a good thing. I feel like the actors kind of got into character and went with that more than like, oh, this sentence ends in an exclamation point, so I'm going to shout all of the sentences. So if you do the audiobook version, you kind of miss that obnoxious, repetitive exclamation point business. So, something to keep in mind. The audiobooks are very good. All right, and number 1 is The Diviners. This shouldn't be a surprise. When I finished reading it, I was like, you guys, it's one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. The narrator just kills it. She crushes it. January Lavoie, if you see her name on something, get it. The audiobook will be amazing. So, The Diviners, go listen to it right now. Like, right now.
Right now.
Right now. Go do it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I will see you in another video very soon talking about other things. Bye.
And stuff.
And stuff. So, lunch is here.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come.